Welcome to Terrifying Tales. The Knocking by C.J. Knight. Nina moved in on a rainy Tuesday morning. The building was tall, a grey concrete monolith, faded and dirty, as if it had been yanked from the earth rather than constructed. The landlord, a sallow man with sweat-stained cuffs, handed her the key with a brief smile. "Top floor. Pretty quiet up there." The apartment was too clean, Nina thought. It didn't match the outside of the building. It looked as if every surface had been scrubbed of history. She stood at the window for a long while, staring at the rainfall over the surrounding rooftops. It created the illusion of the buildings fading away slowly. It felt like the kind of place you go to be forgotten. Nina spent the day unpacking, and when the time came, sleep came easy. Knock, knock, knock. Nina woke. She checked her phone. 3:33 a.m. More knocking. Slower. Nina counted 5. She sat up in bed, straining her ears. It wasn't coming from the door. Knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Nina's heart pounded, her pulse ringing. It was coming from the wall opposite her bed. Old pipes, she told herself, settling building. She laid back down and closed her eyes. But Nina slept no more that night. The next night, Nina found falling asleep far more difficult than the previous evening. But it came eventually. Knock, knock, knock. Nina woke in an instant. 3:33 a.m. This time Nina got up, checked the rooms of her apartment, and then the front door. The outside hallway was empty. Only closed apartment doors. She returned to her bedroom and pressed her ear to the wall. Knock, knock, knock. Nina jumped back. She grabbed her phone from the bedside table and pressed her ear to the wall once more. The knocks were softer now, but had purpose. Rhythmic. Nina started recording them on her phone, unsure why. Every night the knocking continued. The patterns changed, but it was always done with purpose. The cadence was too precise to be random. It wasn't a haunting clatter or a moaning creak. It was a language, a code. Nina downloaded a Morse code translator to her phone. Feeling foolish, she fed it one of the sequences. "I'm so cold." Nina stared at the screen for a long time. Then she played the next night's recording. The translation. "I was still breathing when I was sealed in." Nina's phone slipped from her fingers. The clatter echoed through the room as it bounced along the floorboards. Nina knew she wouldn't sleep. Instead, she opened her laptop. She typed in the address of her building, 333 Emberfield Road. An old article explained the building was condemned 30 years ago. No reason was given. This was followed by an old newspaper article. The headline, "Still no answers. Tenants gone without a trace." The picture displayed a grand-looking building, but there was no mistake. Age had taken its toll. But this was Nina's building. The article read that there were no signs of struggle or foul play, no sightings of the tenants by family or friends, but there was one survivor, a 6-year-old boy. He claimed the walls swallowed them, but this was brushed off as traumatic delusion. That night, Nina never slept. She sat by her bedroom wall, listening in silence, ready to record. At 3:33, the knocking began. Nina translated each pattern as it came. It hurts. I'm here. Can't you hear my screams? Nina felt her chest tighten. The knocking began again, sharper, more urgent. She pressed record and translated the pattern immediately. Let me out. I am you. Nina backed away from the wall, her breath ragged. The floorboards beneath her feet felt unsteady. She stumbled into bed, willing herself not to listen. But the knocking continued. Nina let out a scream. The knocking was no longer coming from the wall. It was coming from inside her mind. The next morning, Nina remembered nothing, past stumbling to her bed. Pain in her knuckles drew her eyes. They were covered in bruises. She was startled by a knock at the door. She answered it to find her neighbour, who lived in the apartment directly beneath her, his eyes bloodshot, punctuated by dark circles beneath. Hey. Sorry to bother you. I was just wondering. Were you up hammering or something? Around 3:30? It woke me up and I couldn't get back to sleep. Nina forced a smile. No, it must have been the pipes. The man seemed unconvinced, but he left. But now Nina knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going crazy. If the knocking was keeping the neighbours awake, it was real. That night, Nina set up a camera. But she slept undisturbed. No knocking at 3:33 a.m. Nina plugged the USB from her camera into her laptop. Her stomach lurched at the footage. At 3:33, it showed her rise from her bed, eyes unfocused, expression vacant. She walked to the bedroom wall and knocked, her arm moving rhythmically. Knock, knock, knock. It continued for almost 20 minutes. Then she watched herself turn and return to bed. The next night, the knocking continued. The downstairs neighbour resolved to confront Nina once more. This time when he knocked at her door, Nina didn't answer. The landlord was called and entered Nina's apartment. She was nowhere to be found. All of her belongings were there. There was no note, no forwarding address, just a camera left recording in the bedroom. Weeks later, the landlord rented the apartment once more. The new tenant was a nurse, friendly, rational, and very tired. That first night, she fell asleep easily. She woke with a start at 3:33 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. If you like what you heard, please give the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel.